Hello, everybody. Asher here, and welcome back to Road Wardens, where you can enjoy the wonderful, beautiful sounds of the outside critters and creatures and croaking and destroyed stuff on the trail. We are currently, if I can pull up the map here, we currently have gone east. And if you remember from the beginning, we started at Tulia's camp, and she said, "Go west. The deep forests to the east are dangerous as hell." But we are here anyway, at a fallen tree right now. Passable in carts and wagons, and crossing it slows you down. It's still day one, 13 hours. We did a lot of introductory stuff yesterday, and right now we're hungry, we're ugly, but Kiera has some investigating to do. So we are going to investigate and see what is going on here with this destroyed thing here, and then we can say, I think I know what happened here, but let's investigate the surrounding area first. You walk deeper in the wilderness, searching through the shrubs and trees. You don't find any side paths nor remains of a camp or a hamlet. The first game trail you find has been used exclusively by animals. You look at the tree. The leaves are not completely dry, and when you break one of the twigs, it still contains water. There are no signs of sickness that you can recognize, and the termites and other bugs are still sparse. Beneath the trunk, there's no blood, no abandoned limbs, so it looks just like a felled tree. The stump. You don't find any marks or paw prints or maw marks. The top is hip-high and unnaturally smooth. You can comfortably sit down on it. Can I just go ahead and type sit here? The tracks. In the trampled grass, you find two sets of tracks to follow. There are no hoof prints. Their first set is near the destroyed wagon. The wayfarers suddenly stopped. You can see where they made a sharp turn. The second trail is close to the tree stump. Most of the marks were left by flat, cheap boots not suitable for long walks, but someone was wearing hard, wide heels distorting the ground. Both trails avoid the eastern wilderness, which is over here. They stick to the main road and lead you north. They could have belonged to 24 people, maybe more. You follow them for a bit, but lose them once there's no more mud and tree needles to find. So let's check the wagon. I feel like we're doing a Scooby-Doo here looking for clues. The planks are still firm and there's no mustiness in the air, but the vehicle needs a push to fall to pieces, like a child's toy with nothing to keep the parts together. There are ways to construct a wagon with just wood, leather, and fiber, but you find the marks of hinges, braces, nails, and clamps, which are now all gone. The wheels are missing their steel rims. You find only one linen bag, empty and moist. Can I pick up the linen bag? Maybe. I mean, someone chopped up this wagon. You can't estimate how deep the tracks are. The ground was hard, so the cart's weight isn't a significant factor. Let's check out the river. It would only take 2 steps to disappear into the deep water. The rocky bank smells fresh and is filled with sound of frogs, insects, and birds. It's not a good spot to quench your thirst. The beds of long kelp pulled by the flow of the river are crowded with fish and four-legged creatures that you do not even recognize. You keep an eye on the land. There are no carcasses in sight, no signs or shells that will be left nearby. So wow, we are really investigating this. The bushes. Oh, we found an arrow. Nice. There are no berries left, only broken twigs, fallen leaves, and trampled grass. You notice a pointy arrow made by human hand with the head made from the horn of a black-orange fletching. You don't know what type of bird would have such feathers. Maybe an oriole? Huh? You see no arrow marks around, not even on the wagon. So we have the western hill here. The rocky wall isn't much of a challenge. The top of the hill is covered with short grass and sparse trees. You notice a couple of bushes with a good view of the road, just next to the remains of a campfire. Charred pieces of wood, ash, bird bones, trampled grass, and a broken earthenware bottle. You follow the deepest tracks leading to the edge of the soft earth. Someone jumped down or at least stopped stepping on the grass. So we can investigate the road now. The road here is already being overgrown, fading away, but it's in no worse shape than the other parts of the southeastern route. Well, that's interesting, because we haven't been on much of the southeastern route yet. No alternate paths have formed around the blockade. So we can take a look at everything again, but I think I know what happened here. What do you think has happened to the tree? So was it cut down as part of an ambush? It was broken by a monster. It was broken by the wild. It was dying of an illness. It's not that. It wasn't sick. It could have been chopped over by the wind, but it wouldn't have been unnaturally smooth. We could say it was broken down by a monster instead of being cut down in an ambush. Why was the wagon abandoned? Was it attacked by monsters? The owners had time to move it. It was attacked by highwaymen. Somebody jumped down here. So they did have no movement. What was originally transported on the wagon? Well, we only have a linen bag with some mush in it. We'll say some valuable merchandise. What happened to the owners of the wagon? There's no blood here. They disappeared into the wilderness. They were taken north. You think the tree was broken by a monster? Oh, wow. So I have to commit to this now. Well, this is where I can reload the save, technically, if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that, though. The cart, which transported some valuable merchandise, was left behind by the owners. Had no time to move it. Its owners were taken north. Let's say I'm sure. Okay, while you can't be sure of what really happened here, you don't think there's much left for you to find. You hope you haven't missed anything. So we could consider washing myself in the river, but we've already seen that the river is really deep. We won't get any cleaner here, so we are UGLY. And it smells of algae. You don't want to bathe in algae water. So if we decide to do our investigation again, I'm going to go ahead. And it was broken by a monster. The owner had no time to move it, and they had some valuable merchandise, and they were taken north. So if we look in our journal here, we have the fallen tree. And this would support future trade routes. Now, we don't have any big monster tracks here, but we don't know for sure. So if we travel... Oh, we can travel north. I wasn't sure if I'd have to go east, but it did say before that we could go around here. So as long as you ride uphill, the forest is sparse. Soon after, tree roots tear the path apart. Well, that's exciting. The road is coated with branches, acorns, leaves, and chestnuts, and some seedlings have already broken through the pitted surface of the road. Ooh, that's not a good sound. If left undisturbed for another year or two, the forest will reclaim this place. Oh, I see like a tower or something ahead. Finally, you ride upward again. The plants are getting smaller, the road more rocky. And what do we get that's going to kill us from the woods here? While the hills are full of life, you don't hear anything coming from the watchtower. Its upper level lacks a wooden platform from which the guards could fire their crossbows or drop stones on the opponents below. So this place is not meant to be used in combat, but rather a shelter from claws and fangs. Such structures can be found in especially untamed parts of Dragonwoods, used occasionally by travelers or patrolling squads. Since the end of the war, the cities can't find enough people in Dragonbones to keep them in good shape. You see no footsteps, no lights, no fresh trash or latrine. The birds are preening their feathers on top of the tower, while the branches of nearby trees are swaying in the fierce cold wind. So, do we find the tracks that we saw near the fallen tree? The tracks lead here through the narrow gate, then west. West? Huh. We could go west. Well, we could go east into the total danger zone, or we could go north. But I kind of want to see what we can find here. The hard heels are especially noticeable. Let's take a look at the signpost. The planks and the letters are damaged by decades of rains, frost, borers, and claws. You scratch off some of the moss. There are 3 planks on the signpost, each one pointing in a different direction. The letters don't tell you anything. The plank on the top points both south and north, but there are no pictures that would tell you anything more than that. The one beneath it points east, and there's a word written in blue paint. The arrow here looks more like a magic wand. So that's to the east. The bottom plank has a picture of a tall tower surrounded by little houses and points west. The wood is covered in red paint, suggesting danger. So, we've already heard from the guards before that there are people taking other people as slaves or anything here. So I wonder if going west could potentially do that. So let's check the spruce trees. It must be a human-made corpse. Well, that's exciting. Only the smallest of spruces are out of order, or copse. Ooh, that's totally different than a human-made corpse. Need to do a little better with my sight reading today. Only the smallest of spruces are out of order, born of wild seeds. The largest trees are as tall as the tower itself, which surely doesn't help those who are meant to observe their surroundings. There's some stumps, most of which used to belong to young saplings. These trees were likely meant to be sold to carpenters and coopers, but they were left alone many years ago. In the copse you find wild fennel and lettuce thriving in shadows, and there are pears and berries growing among the nearby trees and shrubs. Okay, so there's a campfire at the fence. You see a shattered bowl, the remains of a meal of many years ago. However, the firewood and lonely stool are not too old. You don't doubt that the watchtower seems less threatening to wayfarers than the wilderness around it, even when it's locked. All right. I want to approach the entrance here. You take a look at Sodal. If necessary, it could bow its head and walk inside. This place would be a decent shelter for you both. The planks are strong, heavy, and well protected from rain and wind, and when you knock, they seem to be thick. While the door shakes as you push, it won't open. Defensive structures usually have a locking bar on the inner side, but you also see a large keyhole. You walk around the tower, making sure there are no open windows in the entrances. It doesn't look like you can get in without destroying the door, and doing so is going to make a potential entryway for wild creatures. Okay, so we're not going to break through. I think that would be dumb. There's got to be a key somewhere around here. Let's take a look through the keyhole. You kneel down and take a peek. There's nothing in the hole, but the room is dark with tiny bits of light passing through the crevices in the windows. You see shapes of wooden furniture, little tables, casks, and a ladder, but only movement you notice belongs to dust dancing in the sunbeams. So we're not going to bust this open right now. I expect that there's a key somewhere. Let's walk to the gate. Setting up a firm wall in a place like this is a bit unusual. It goes on for no more than 40 feet until it connects to a natural rock face. Such a structure could be found near the city, acting as a checkpoint at which to stop any travelers to search through their belongings or request a fee. But in the middle of nowhere, deer and other animals used to running here with no hindrance must have been more than annoyed, a risky investment. You touch the gate, made out of high-quality wood previously soaked in oil, now mostly wiped off. It was left open and you don't see any wooden bar that would be used to lock it. You try to move the cold planks buried in dried-out mud, but with no luck. It would require some wary digging. So, without wanting to break into the door, it seems like we may not have as much to do here. So we have some options. We could travel north, we could travel west. I have a feeling that west is going to be kind of where slave traders are, and I don't think I can mark it on the map. So north is probably where the trail continues, but I was told that east is the danger place. So we're going to keep going. Plus, I saw something about magic. I'd love to know more. The first part of the trail is narrow and overgrown. The steep crag in the south divides the lush forest in half. You barely recognize any shapes in the entanglement of grays, browns, and greens. The northern landscape, while similarly impenetrable, is the exact opposite. The meadow turns into barren hills and mountains barely covered by grass and bushes. Maybe the riding ibexes of the clanspeople from the growing mountains would get through such a barrier. But there's no clans here. What do we find? Okay. Point at this icon to display an entire area at once. Oh, that must be interesting. Okay. I haven't seen that before. So this is a big area. The road leads you downhill on the edge of the lake. The clearing around the dwelling is quiet with no crickets, flies, or even toads. The grass is not even knee-high. There are no signs of a wharf or boats. The wall isn't coated and has already been bitten by the winds and rains. Right next to the gate, a gargoyle or a stone look-alike kneels on a slab. That would be that. It's dark purple, almost black, with yellow pointing teeth, though its half-open mouth has no tongue, and the creature doesn't move even an inch. The eyes have been replaced by crystals, red like curtain juice. So we can knock on the gate, we could touch the gargoyle, we could push the gate. Okay, so this is where we get to learn a little bit more about Kiera here. She's going to knock. Finding no knocker, you just use your fist. There's no response. Anybody home? Your voice is welcomed by the screeching of dozens of avian throats. They take off from behind the wall, heading towards the lake. After a few breaths, the eyes of the gargoyle grow brighter. What's with all the ape shouts? You lost? The words are coming from the monster's mouth, though it remains still. Stand in front of me. I want to see your mug. The drawling voice belongs to a woman, who apparently I make sound like a smoker, but is lined with unnatural creaking. I step closer. Oh, look, the gargoyle's lights came on. The eyes don't rotate nor blink. So, who do you think you are? So we could be friendly? We could be playful. We could be distanced. We could be threatening. Or we could be vulnerable here. Well, we just had a bunch of birds come over here. It's time to make an awkward joke. I must say, as a road warden, I've seen some disgusting beasts, but you are surely the kindest voice of them all. During the long pause, the glow of the gargoyle's eyes subside. Once they light up again, the voice gets even colder. I don't know what answer you're looking for, so you'll get none. Do you even know who I am? So we could say, oh, of course, but the truth is, I don't. So, you lost your way, and now you're wasting my time. Long pause. I'm Eotica. Well, that's going to be fun to pronounce. The only enchantress you'll find in this land, and you're disturbing my work. I don't see people in the middle of the day. Return in the early morning or a few hours before dusk. If you have to, best yet, don't bother me at all. The monster's eyes darken again. Your mount is ready to ride away. So, it will make her angry if I touch the gargoyle's head. You know, I think honestly here, if she has a glowing gargoyle, and we have this whole big area, we're in the middle of the day, we can always come back. So that's the coast. I kind of want to go north, so let's go north. Oh, good, a bridge. That's fun. And a little boat. With no trees or crags blocking the sun, the road is bright and inviting. The simple bridge is centuries old, bitten by time. It makes you think of the dolmen you saw south of here. The torrent is deep and fast with plenty of fish. The boat is destroyed beyond repair, rotting, fallen to pieces with holes in the floor and the sides overgrown with fungi and moss. The thick shrubs are covered with thorns. Small birds are jumping from one twig to another, pecking at the brown berries. You think about picking some of the fruits, but you're not sure if they're edible. So, we could wash ourselves in the river. Oh, wow. Okay, well, you undress, keeping your axe in hand, and check the water with your hand. It's as warm and as clean. You step in, hearing your mount's afraid snort. You tell it to quench its thirst, but the harsh bite reaches your calf. You look down, another wave of panic rushes through your legs. Your blood flows downstream. In a panic, you climb back, grabbing clumps of grass. A fish is still holding your thigh. You pull it and squeeze it with anger. Its mouth is filled with inch-long, thin teeth. You need a bandage. Well, damn. Can't just take a bath anywhere here. We're going to throw it into the bushes. So I'll peacefully choose the grass, enjoying the sun in the back, or get ready to take a nap. So that's the fun part. Kiera likes animals, but doesn't like getting bitten. Good to know. So let's look around for an hour. We lost some vitality. That's exciting. After what feels like an eternity of searching around the boat, the banks, the shrubs, you sit down on the bridge and take a break. Then realize you haven't actually looked beneath it. You kneel on the grass and look into the darkness. Among the cobwebs and bugs, you spot an odd piece of fabric pinned under the rock. You pull it to find a rotting, torn pouch that contains a single dragon bone. You make sure you haven't missed the other ones in the dirt, but even if they existed, you have rolled down and sunk for good. So we got 1 money. All right, so I'll peacefully choose the grass. So free money, and we can go this way here. Like I said, it's interesting. The game really wants me to go here. We're going to keep making mistakes. Oh, we get the combat music now. The gentle road leads downhill, getting greener and less rocky and further north you get. Just in case your eyes run towards a few drier parts of the meadow, and you instantly shout at Sodal to make haste. A pack of short-haired wolves, oh shit, at least 20 members strong, is chasing after you. Their coats are a mixture of yellow, black, and white spots, as if someone threw mud and painted them. They move towards the road with human-like speed, and you realize that only some of them are running straight at you. They try to cut my path, so we're just going to run here. If it wasn't for your palfrey, the beast would have already caught up with you. Their trap was perfectly set up, not leaving you any path of escape. Your terrified mount is disciplined enough to stay on the beaten path, even though one of the big-eared wolves almost sinks its teeth into your mount's thigh. You manage to squeeze between the hunters. For the next few minutes, you do your best to get further away, and while your gallop is indeed faster, the wolves easily shorten the distance by moving through the sparse forest. You ride past a cabin placed in the clearing at the bottom of the rock face, but you can't stop while the chase is at your back. So do we have something that I can use here? Maybe. You think about your sack and bundles, but the pack won't wait for you to sort things out. The group gets larger the further you go, and even more of its members, previously hiding among the trees and grasses, now join the hunt, allowing their tired family members to slow down. You may be able to lose them after some time, but scaring or wounding some of them may force them to give up on their prey. So I have a crossbow. So there's a nice shed that we can't get to yet. And if we look at the map, we can't leave here yet either. And there's an uninhabited cabin in the woods. That's fun. Just have to keep going. So my crossbow is ready. Alright, you reach for the drawn crossbow and bolt, then lock your sights on the closest creature. You wait until you learn its rhythm, then shoot once it's midair. The arrow flies through the wolf's flesh as it lets out a painful cry and plunges to the ground. Its concerned allies howl with fear and anger, and while a few of them try to keep up, many more stay behind and surround their pack member, protecting it from potential threats. After another few minutes, you're alone again, this time at the edge of the hills. Sodal is tired, but patient. Oh my god, I'm so ugly right now. People will stay away from me. But patient, more happy to survive than it is angry at your wanderlust. Whoops. Sounds like a title of an episode there. At least you can hope the pack will move to a different place during the night. So, let's stop to look around, now that we have survived another physical trial and tribulation here. Okay, and if we look on the map, are we still... Oh, okay, so we're in a new place here. Foraging grounds. The valley is flanked by the hills. Only in the west, the grasses and bushes blend into the horizon and turn into another part of the forest. The southern hills are gray and tall, with fortress-like rock faces and a crown of conifers. The northern ones have countless sand-colored rocks slumped together like piles of rubble and clay, bearing hardly any soil or weeds. The plants are struggling. The grass is short and yellowish, sometimes dried out. The bushes have silver leaves, like many plants from sunny areas. The mushrooms can't hide in the shadows, but as you approach one, you see it's growing from the remains of a dead bird, which others are covering older branches and other plants. They won't last much longer. So we have 8 days before dusk. It'll be easy to spot any larger beast around. You have to squint to find the first threatening creature or runners in the far east, close to the hills, though it completely ignores you, walking around and observing the grass, looking for its next prey. You don't have to worry about it for now. There are boot prints in the road as well as in the short grass, fresher than any part of the eastern road. Since many mushrooms were cut away with a knife, and you notice a few berries and shrubs, you conclude it's a foraging spot for the people of the north, though there doesn't seem to be much food left. There are almost no prints leading further south. Well, I wonder why if it's full of wolves. So we get 2 bunches of wild plants. You let Sodal keep itself busy while you walk around looking for anything edible. It takes a fair bit of time. You don't really plan to carry around raw mushrooms and bugs, and the wild vegetables need to be washed before you put them in your bags. You finally find a few handfuls of plants, fruits, and nuts. Next time, however, it's not going to be so easy, especially since the runner, a bird both taller and wilder than you, observes you carefully, at first from a distance, then circling around you. After about an hour, you hear its piercing screech. As the creature runs at you, shaking its beak larger than your head, you throw everything into a sack and get in the saddle. So we need to avoid this place while this is here. We're a little bit short on nourishment here. If I look at my inventory, we do have wild plants that aren't very filling. We do have a set of food rations. I kind of need to... You can't eat right now because we're being chased by a bird. That's fair. Thanks, game. That is fair. And now we have to ask ourselves a question here. Because we can try to travel further northwest. If we try to travel down here, I don't exactly know. It's 4 hours. How many hours do I have left in the day? So my question is that if I need to find a place to stay at the night, it could be Tullia's camp. But I haven't found like much of the way to eat. I was told before that there would be a distinct lack of civilization. We need to wait for spotted wolves to leave. We don't know when that's going to be. And we don't know it's to the west there. I half wonder if I should go the southern crossroads. But let's see. Right now, it's 7:45. We may have a little more time yet. Let's push. Okay. The air is humid but fresh, vitalizing. The light touches the road and shrubs, blocked only by a single wind willow, wild and untrimmed. You're by a lake, too large for you to see the other bank, but the local soil isn't too fertile. There are only a few trees on the horizon, while the struggling bushes and grasses fight with the layers of rocks. The further path north is green, bright, and calming. A gray rabbit is cleaning up its fur near the brook, but the sound of hooves makes it hop towards the nearest shrub. Right after it sinks into the leaves, you hear it squeal, cut off quickly. Whatever its hunters was, it leaves behind only the rustling of a thicket and a trail of blood. You wait for a long minute with your hand on your axe, but the creature doesn't return. I guess because it had a rabbit. You relax for a bit and turn towards the stone statue of a young woman, which is right there. Such a monument would be, and we don't have the little thing to see further here. Such a monument would be better fit for a temple or a rich city folk's house. Here, without any cover, it's already losing its shape from the rains of dust. Chunks in the face of hair have already broken off. It has detailed eyes and human-like proportions. The clothes are like fabric petrified by a spell. The statue carries the unusual traveling equipment, a walking staff, a gamson, simple pants not covered by leaves. So we have some stuff here. It's a shame it seems to be deteriorating. You observe its delicate face and the broken fingers, the last bits of which still hold the staff. You wonder why someone would place such a thing here. So we could say welcoming travelers to sea. Someone had to drop it off after their wagon broke. So let's say it could be something important. There's no answers to find the statue's eyes. We're not going to try washing ourselves in the stream again and get eaten by fish. Clear the space of the statue. The locals may appreciate looking after their relics. I want to make clear that there's a new road warden, someone who cares. Okay, you dismount and approach the bushes. You try to push them away, but their stems are thick and healthy, crowded with insects and spiderwebs. Thankfully, no thorns, and a touch of a leaf doesn't make your finger itchy. In about half an hour, I'm just checking the time here, could cut down the bushes and twigs. That seems fine. Look! The statue's now standing. You tether Sodal to a tree, letting it choose between drinking and grazing and napping, and Sodal doesn't appear to be getting eaten. So that's exciting. You prepare your equipment, keeping an eye on the bush where you saw the rabbit's last moments. You use your weight to move the plants to one side, then cut right above the ground. The stems are healthy and flexible, so getting them through them is rough, but you have enough strength to deal with them in a couple of minutes. Then you throw them into the lake. The work goes by for a bit, but once you're done, the statue stands in its former glory. A couple of old offerings are still on the pedestal. Polished rocks, bone figurines, and moldy bowls and plates that used to store food. In one vessel, you see a dragon bone. It's dark and could be older than a generation, but it would surely be accepted by a merchant. Honestly, this is something here where if I were not role-playing this, I would say, you know what, this is just left here, we're going to leave it here. But Kiera, somebody left it out. You wash it in the brook and straighten up just a tiny bit richer. The statue is silent. Now we will think about washing ourselves. We need at least one piece of bathing equipment, so we get some of this. We got 6 hours left in the day. Let's travel. So we can go further north again, or we can try to go west at the southern crossroads. We got 4.5 hours. I want to check my journal here because we should have groups and places. We have Hovlevin, but we don't have too much other. Pelts in Keep. I've heard about them. The Pelts of the North. We just don't know. We don't know exactly where some of the stuff is. Like, my concern is if I travel down there, am I going to get totally lost? I mean, this is the statue of a woman. Looks like there's possibly civilization somewhere nearby. Alright, so the lakeside is filled with chirping of cicadas and crickets, as well as the roaming of beasts from the hills. The yellow tall grasses are interwoven with flowers and bumblebees, while the peaceful water shines just as much as the wings of dragonflies. This road is often traveled and the clatter of hooves carries far. Thanks to the vast field of view, the creatures hiding in the meadow are unlikely to jump on an animal as large as Sodal. In the distance, you see a palisade and a large building set on the side of the crossroad. Once you get closer, you hear the conversation from behind the wall. Two men are arguing about if they really just heard a horse. So, that's interesting. We have maybe there's some rumors or finally somebody to talk to. We don't actually have a new part of the map revealed yet, so let's talk to people. Sodal carries you towards the open gate on its own, welcoming an opportunity to rest by pushing out the air loudly through its nostrils. A nearby wooden pen won't offer much space for a horse, but it should be enough for grazing and a nap. As you dismount, two men get up from the front stairs. Their clean-shaven faces reveal that they are in their early 20s. The first one is taller than you, broad-shouldered, and wears light brown pants and a darker jacket, both of them made of leather. With an inviting smile, he gets up and moves to open the enclosure. His steps are heavy and slow, but every moment is marked with carefulness, assuring he won't knock down anything or anyone. The second man looks as different from his colleagues as the sun and the moon. He's unusually short and wears a heavy cloak made of black fur, so large it could cover his entire shell. He opens the door of the building, hides his hand, and peeks into the room. "Foggy!" His shrill voice is unconcerned. "A messenger! Come!" So, take off my bundles, let's let the horse rest. The hanging barrel sways in the wind, marking this place as an inner tavern. The building resembles a merchant's house from Havlavan, whitewashed with oiled, elegant wooden beams. The fragile walls are high enough to avoid floods and snow, but you have no doubt that a troll or even a peddler could easily break through them. The palisade is short, has hardly any support, and has no walkway for crossbowmen, hardly enough for even a makeshift hamlet. Yet it's the open harbor that makes you uneasy, not because I just got bit by a fish. Aside from the fish, any creature, aquatic or not, could just walk into the yard undisturbed. The path is covered with paw prints and claw marks. So we better not leave Sodal out here during the night. A black and white bird swoops into the water, then flaps its wings and takes off with a silver, twitching creature in its talons. The large man clears his throat. "And what have we here? Coming from afar, friend? Are there now horses and howlers?" His voice is stentorian, close to a shout. You recognize vaguely his accent from the city harbor. So, I'm happy to see people. So, I think we just keep it neutral because I don't know what Howlers is. I haven't been to that place you've mentioned. Me and my horse are from the city. Oh, so you took the eastern road. He frowns. Well, were you hunting or what? It's a dangerous path. We don't use it. We can't even open the watchtower. Eotica lives nearby, but she keeps to herself. You hear heavy footsteps. A woman shows up in the door and looks at you from the top of the stairs. She's even more towering and stout than her son, the man who just welcomed you. With a massive chest and a pear-shaped face with a prominent chin, her movements are composed and confident. She may be older than 50, but with a mixture of gray and dark blonde hair. She has only one arm, the left one, notably muscular and with a hand so large it could likely chop off Sodal's head with a single strike, or crush yours like a berry. Through the slit of her robe, made of creamy warm fur, you spot her trunk-like legs. She runs her eyes over your blade, armor, and mount. Her lips form into something of a smile, distorted by the scar that runs through her mouth. The tall guy looks a lot like her. Well, that's an astute observation. He spreads his arms, forming a chain between you and her. Meet Foggy, friend. The rider has come to us through the tower. His powerful voice turns timid. He looks. His head keeps turning from left to right and back. All the way from Havlavan. The woman nods. Weird of you to choose that path. Haven't you heard it's safer to get here from the west? At least you save some coins by staying away from Howler's Dell. They will gladly take your eye for a loaf of bread. Still, better stay away from the road that leads west from the watchtower. Ooh, so I was right to worry about the monsters there. All sorts of monsters live there. Oh shit! Now I kind of want to go, but we're happy. We're right here, and we're not going to get eaten by a fish. She stretches out her only hand vaguely. What brings you to Foggy Lake, love? Just stopping by? Her voice is hoarse, like that of a traveler who spent too many autumn nights in cold tents, yet carries a hint of motherly concern. I close the animal pen behind me and head towards the stairs. You won't find another shelter in this part of the Dragonwoods, especially not in creeks. She scratches her head. I don't know what creeks is. You drink? So we could hide our emotions from time to time. Could try to make it really awkward here and try hard. I wouldn't dare insult your hospitality. Or just say in good company. I'll just stick with from time to time. And I'd say this is the very right time. Her shouting enthusiasm makes your mount snort. Come, dear, share a story with me and a mug. Without waiting for your response, she walks inside. This feels like it could be a trap or a honeypot or something, but we're doing it anyway. The tall man takes a deep breath. Go ahead, we'll take care of your horse. Oh shit, this really feels like a trap. He encourages you with a gesture, and by that he means we won't do anything. By someone saying, and by that he means we won't do anything with it. That's just extra suspicious at this point, guys. When you say I'm not suspicious, you're suspicious. Adds the man in black fur. Whenever his screechy words follow the deep voices of his companions, he sounds like a brat. We're not feeding or washing beasts that we won't put in a stew, but we'll keep an eye on it. They find new spots to rest, the side of the boat and the stool near the palisade. Without a word, I go up the stairs. Oh, cool, we're inside. Okay. A narrow segmented window shutters left in a lot of light segmented window shutters let in a lot of light without letting the beast inside. The air is humid but carries not a hint of putridity. The heels of Foggy's boots make her steps seem like thunder even though the planks don't creak. Make yourself at home, she says without looking at you, heading to the trap door in the corner. I'll just grab a little something. Your ears catch the screeches of hunting birds and the winds that leak through the windows. But other than that, the room is quiet. And now we can snoop. So we have main hall, basement, look where the ladder leads, and sit down at the table and wait for the keeper's return. Let's investigate, looking in the main hall. The room is crammed with stuff. The bare pelt on the ground would be a nice resting spot, but the place doesn't look like a real home. No chest, no cabinets for clothes, no toys or tools or simple crafts that would fill the time during rainy evenings. Living with so many windows in the winter would be a struggle. One could clear this place in one morning and move all that's worth saving into a single wagon. The only things of exceptional value are the cauldron made of pricey steel and the hanging head of an insect-like monster. Its mandibles don't move, the dim eyes seem intact, and its armored head tells a long story of survival through scratches and cuts. Well, that's exciting. Oh, there's its little mandibles. I love pixel art. Okay, check the basement. I guess we can't check far into the basement. A meager light hinders your view. There are dozens of barrels, sacks, stone tools, bowls, and pieces of roasted fish or bird meat. Foggy notices you but doesn't say anything. She looks for something among a bunch of bottles. There's a couple more animal trophies placed on top of the barrels leaning against the wall. Fangs, claws, monster heads, and a lizard skin. Quite a collection. So where does the ladder lead? I'm guessing... Okay, there's the ladder. So we're really snooping hard here. You climb up the simple rope ladder and reach the attic. It smells like a haystack. The floor is covered with animal furs, bags, and clothes. There's a soul sitting in the corner. A bearded man in his 20s who has only his right hand. Though unlike the tavern keeper, he has kept the rest of his arm. Huh. I wonder if that's the guy that deserted the guard post. His sleepy eyes observe you without a word. After he greets you with a nod, he starts to put on his boots. So I sit down at the table and wait for the keeper's return. You take a glance at the blood on the table, the scattered yellow feathers, and the bowl of guts and talons. You find yourself a clean stool. Foggy shows up soon, smiling, holding 2 cups in her hand, a bottle in her fingers, and a cloth under her shoulder. She puts everything on a stool and wipes the table clean. Forgive the mess, it's just part of the job, she explains without a hint of apology. I'd rather dress birds in the yard, but the blood lures the beasts. Sometimes the folks from creeks bring us meals, but we need to take care of ourselves. She throws the bloody cloth back into the bucket, making a splash, and sits down on the stool, making it look like it was made for a doll. She rests her elbows on the table and looks at you in the eyes. Her voice is warm yet intrusive. So, who am I dealing with? Well, okay, so far I'm not getting murdered, so that's a plus. I introduce myself. The bottle removes its seal seemingly by itself. The wax floats in the air briefly, then lands on the table gently. Without a word, she pours a thick liquid into the cups in her only hand, but doesn't offer you a drink just yet. So we have some options here. I'm trying to learn more about the peninsula. A tavern seemed like a fair shot. I don't want to lead off with the last road warden, although I do want to see what I can find out. I'm going to need shelter every now and then. That is true. I hope for trade a bit in the following days. I wanted to see what I can get here. Leave some coins. I was hoping to find work. Okay, those all seem true, but let's start with learning the peninsula. She sighs and grabs her cups. It looks like she could crush it with 2 fingers. I don't see what's in it for me, dear. I'm sure you'll find those who crave a pair of ears to fill with gibberish, but I run this place and I get more from it than I put into it. She places a second cup in front of you. It's made of dim brown wood, humble, wide, and short. Its surface is cold, rough, but elegant. In Havelvin, such vessels were often ornamented with metalwork from bronze to gold, and bear all sorts of carvings and pictures. So, we have these things here. You don't care about getting on a road warden's good side. I guess we did say who we are. Keeping me around as a vestment. Let me just... I love awkward. Don't say anything. Well, let's see what she wants in return. Her grin makes you think of a hungry wolf. Now we speak in the same tongue. Just be sure to act rather than talk. I have a little thing on my soul that you could take care of. It's not a hard task, but it's not something I'd trust to the boys outside with. She glances at the entrances. We can talk about it later. Why now? Go ahead. Enjoy your drink. You raise the cup to your nose. You smell flowers, yeast, and hops. The liquid is golden on the edges but resembles red amber in the center. It's as thick as a herbal medicament. You take a look at your companion, seeking a hint of what's expected of you. In some places, people gulp down their mead, but your vessel allows you to appreciate the aroma. The huge keeper smiles and takes a sip. You follow her lead, and the drink touches your lips. It's warm, hiding none of its subtleties. Drinking mead is a never-ending conflict between holding the taste in your mouth and saving yourself from the tormenting sweetness of the honey, yet the flavors in the flowers are just as present, too difficult to capture just yet. Foggy leans forward with an elbow resting on the table. Well, for me, it's a lazy day. At least the rain spares us, so nicely holding on to nights. So we have some other questions here, I guess. What's the story? Let's start with what's the story of this place. It's our 3rd summer under the roof of Foggy Lake, but the palisade is older. It used to be a camping spot for the bird catchers from creeks. And there are fish here that don't swim in our streams. When we were but newcomers in the north, these lands were hard to bend, but the beast got used to us with time. A melancholy crawls into her eyes. She observes the mead in her cup. Every year or so, we added something new. The rocks for a campfire, some stools, a fence, a firewood shed, a boat. At one point, we brought the lumber from White Marshes and built a cabin like the one in the Eastern Road. More folks were resting here, even traders from Gale Rocks and Old Pagos. A plenty fine spot for an inn, aye? Her smile is warm. I'm building my home from nothing, you could say. And not for the first time. How about you? Does any of this at all sound tempting? So, we do have some options here, but if you remember, one of our original choices is to try to form a new life for ourselves here. So the only answer that's really appropriate for us to give is that's the dream, a place far away from Havelvan, somewhere where I can rest after a day's work without aching back. You speak my words, love, my own words. We have a good home here in the north. Not a safe one, not a fun one, but there's plenty of food, plenty of things to build. I'm already luckier than most. She looks at the place where her missing arm used to be. So... I guess, do we want to just go for some awkward questions here? How do you keep yourself safe from beasts? Quick legs, love. Her brief yet thunderous laughter makes you flinch. We don't leave any food outside, but our cauldron smells. Every now and then something scary shows up. We lock ourselves in for days if we have to. Our windows help us keep an eye on the yard. Better this than leaving the hamlet to goblins. You mentioned that having no wall from the lake is quite a risk. She nods in agreement and takes another sip. We don't bring children or old folks around, but this part of the peninsula is not so bad, at least in sunlight. Not much food growing or running around, unless you can live on fish and birds, and the folks of the creeks are great hunters. The greatest around. But isn't there any harbor in the city as well? How do you keep the creatures away? So this is where we can give some options for backstory here. So we could say that it's too dangerous for them. They mostly stay in the water and wait for trash or drunkards. Or every now and then something large shows up and people are scared. We'll do the second choice here. Chilling. One day we'd had such a thing here. During the first summer, 2 adventurers got drunk and went on to watch the lake after dark. We'll hide if anything shows up, they were saying. In the morning, the water was red and their rags were covering the rocks. Ugh. So we could go into some of this other stuff here. What brought you to the north? You don't look like someone who spends their life cleaning tables. Once you burn enough dead friends and relatives, cleaning tables starts to look plenty tempting. She leans forward and takes another look at her bottle, sealing it with an approved nod. My ma and pa were both big and strong. One time they saw me sitting on this kid, twisting his arm, so they started to teach me. Staff duels, running, lifting barrels and rocks. Thankfully, the army chieftain said I wasn't disciplined enough. She rubbed scars on her forehead. So I did a lot of things. Escorted some merchants, joined a group of adventurers, hunted for bounties, guarded a village temple. The last memory makes her voice gloomy. Not all these things make me proud of myself. She smells the mead in her cup, but doesn't take a sip. I moved here only after I lost my arm. When the folks were fleeing the invasion, I took my Ilan, a casket of dragons, and joined a more organized group. Arm or not, I still have a fierce punch. She lets out a pleased grunt. I was worth keeping around. Her voice couldn't hide that she's delighted to carry on with her tale. Now that the years are catching up with me, and even more so with my back, I need to build myself a decent shelter. I crave no adventures, but I'm happy to hear stories from other restless souls. In the meantime, I'll practice this little trick. She points to the cauldron in the middle of the room and starts to make circles with her finger. The ladle mimics the movement, mixing the stew for another minute or two. That's also good for my back. So, that's a pretty good detail there. She's got some magic in her. So we have some other conversation options here, but I'm going to go ahead and stop for now. If we look at the map again, this is totally unexpected. I surely thought at some point I was going to be stopped and I couldn't just explore through the north, but credit to the game Roadwarden for giving you the freedom to take everybody's advice and tell them to shove it. There's a lot of stuff over here that clearly we're going to look at as well, and I find it very fascinating that there's this whole dark area that I assume is dangerous, and it all starts with the abandoned watchtower. Was it to keep things out or keep things in? I guess that's a question for another day. But for now, that'll do it for this one. This is Asher with Roadwarden. We will continue with talking to Foggy, and maybe it sounds like make a new friend. We're still on day 1. Like I said, I have been playing another save of this, and once we start having to jump around the map a little bit, the days will start moving a little more. But for now, we've got to get to know the world, and in some ways, that's one of the more fun parts of the game, is just being able to immerse yourself in it. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're not as hungry as Kiera is, because damn, she needs some food. But we'll deal with that another time. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments, and we'll do this again soon. You all take care.